What's good? What's good? Ready to talk Bible? Ready to talk about the Bible? Talk about life? Talk about Romans? All right. I'm Alfredo Ramos. I'm a pastor here at Sandals Church. In fact, I get to be the campus pastor right here at Sandals Church, Palm Avenue.
So we're in a new series called When in Rome. In this series, we're going through the book of Romans. So why the book of Romans?
Yeah, why the book of Romans? I'd say for a few reasons. First, the book of Romans was written to a group of people who were living in an empire, a very, very diverse, well-developed world, the Roman Empire. In many ways, we are living in our own form of an empire, the American empire, in which there is diversity. In a lot of ways, we're well-developed, but yet in a lot of ways, we have our own challenges, right? And so in the same way that there was a strong Roman culture, where there was a lot of worship of all kinds of things and people, I think the same is true in America, where our culture is filled with a lot of worship of things and people. And so Paul, the person who wrote Romans, is trying to encourage Christians and churches living there on what it looks like to follow Jesus in the midst of such a rich, powerful, and diverse world. And so I think the same applies for us as we try to navigate, being a 21st century person following Jesus too, in a world that feels very, very much like an empire at times, with how big it is, how powerful it is, how much just craziness is going on around us. Like it just seems so fitting for us to kind of journey through this book and consider, what God's calling us to be and do. So,
who wrote the book of Romans and why?
The Apostle Paul, who was also a Roman citizen, he's a Jew who was a Roman citizen, wrote the book of Romans. The book in and of itself is actually a letter. So we can think of it as a personal letter written by Paul, delivered to house churches. So small groups of Christians, maybe 100 or so people who would gather in a central area that were scattered all around the Roman Empire. And so, yes, it's a book, and it's got a lot of depth and words and vocabulary. It's still at the same time a letter that was meant to be read and shared amongst the Christian community. I would say one of the main reasons why Paul wrote this letter was because he was dealing with tensions between Gentile Christians and Jewish Christians and how they're going to get along. How are they going to be a united church in Jesus who embrace the gospel and then think about the implications of that gospel on their life? Like, okay, in other words, if I believe in Jesus, what does that mean for not just me, but the way I relate to other people, the way I live life, the way I work, right? All of those things are connected to what we believe about Jesus and what he's accomplished for us. And I think Paul, understanding that there was already existing tension, as there is with any community of people where there's diverse experiences, different backgrounds, different preferences, right? You're going to just have tension. We just see things differently. Even though we might agree on the essentials, we live our lives a little bit differently. And when it comes together, or when it means to come together to worship, like there's just going to be different preferences. You like to do it this way, I like to do it that way. And so Paul is really trying to address these differences that, if they're not addressed, become divisive issues, like things that can really divide people. And if we want to be a church that welcomes people to experience the love of God in Jesus, we have to do that together. And that was something that they were dealing with at the time. So